Shut up, you listen to my monkey mouth. There's a companion when you got pun on the canoa route. Hopped in a portal and got in a fight. Elias knocked him out. Bow, Naruto fighting style. Bow, UFC he tapped out. Bow, we win, we get crowned. Monkey mouth, monkey mouth, monkey mouth, monkey mouth.
Alrighty everybody, welcome back to the 41st iteration of the Konoha Companion. This is Joshua, as always, and I'm your Konoha Companion. And on this episode, we're going to be covering episode 40 of Naruto, entitled Kakashi and Orochimaru Face to Face. Before I dive too far off into that, though, I do want to go over what happened on the previous episode in my own words kind of briefly, just to make sure we're all caught back up. So, Yoroi and Sasuke fought. Sasuke kicks Yoroi off of him, and he winds up using a variation of the attack that Bushibraw used on him in the past, the primary Lotus, to defeat Yoroi. He's able to do so because he used his Sharingan during the fight with Rock Lee. Mid-attack, his Curse Mark acts up, but he's able to force it back just with like the force of his own will, which blows the minds of everybody who's looking at the situation and knows what's going on. Naruto also notices this, but Sakura winds up covering for Sasuke and acting like nothing's going on. Sasuke wins the fight with the Lion's Mirage, which is again a variated form of the primary Lotus that he got from using his Sharingan on Rock Lee whenever Rock Lee used it on him before they entered the Chunin exams. Sasuke admits internally that learning from Rock Lee was the difference in the fight. Everyone acknowledges Sasuke as badass. 1010 even says that like he's the strongest of the grade, and she'd love to see how him and Neji would pan out if they fought, considering Neji was the strongest of last year's grade. Sasuke reminds Guy Sensei of a young Kakashi, which is like super flattering. Kakashi and Sasuke go and seal the curse mark. The next fight is revealed to be Zaku, which is the like slicing sound wave guy who got his arms broken by Sasuke, part of Team Dosu, member of the Sound Village, underling of Orochimaru, versus Shino, who is the bug jutsu user from the Leaf Village. Zaku attacks, but he's ultimately blocked by Shino. But then he hits Shino with the slicing sound wave, which sends Shino to the floor, like smoking, like clearly having been hit really hard. Kakashi successfully seals the mark, and Orochimaru reveals himself to Kakashi, and the episode ends. And yeah, so that's how the episode went. This episode starts, it kind of takes us a little ways back in kind of traditional Naruto fashion. It starts with Kakashi sealing the curse mark, Kakashi explaining the curse mark to Sasuke, how basically it's only as strong as his will is, right? So the moment that he falters, so too will the curse mark. Sasuke passes out just from the pain and the exhaustion of going through that process. And that's when Orochimaru emerges from the shadows and gets Kakashi's attention by calling out, "Long time no see." The title slide comes in, and it's Naruto reads Kakashi and Orochimaru face to face. Orochimaru tells Kakashi to move aside his businesses with Sasuke. Kakashi demands to know what Orochimaru wants with him, right? Obviously it's his student. He doesn't want him to get taken, and if like he can get any knowledge from Orochimaru, then it's going to be good for him to like understand what the bait really is and how to keep him from him. Orochimaru remarks on how long it's been since they've interacted, and how Kakashi's gotten the Sharingan since their last meeting, and how he basically envies his good fortune, and how he wants the power of the Uchiha as well. And so basically Orochimaru is after Sasuke's Sharingan, right? Like how evidently there's some way for these guys to get Sharingans that aren't necessarily Uchiha clan, and it can happen as an adult or whenever, right? I mean, Orochimaru and Kakashi have history, and Kakashi didn't have the Sharingan back then, and so it would be safe to assume that Orochimaru could also acquire Sharingan, and obviously Orochimaru is already like OP as it is, or at least that's the way it seems, and so him with a Sharingan would probably be like really, really bad news. And so now it's clear that like what's going on, what Orochimaru is really after. It takes us back to the fight between Zaku and Shino, and Shino's like still on the ground smoking from where he got his ass blasted by the slicing sound wave. Zaku asks if Shino's had enough, but Shino's actually able to stand up after having absorbed the blow to Shino's, or rather to Zaku's amazement. Zaku realizes that Shino has bugs coming out of him, right? And he remarks that he's like a human hive, right? And so this is the first time they've really gotten a real good look. There was a point during the first round of the Chunin exams where Shino used his bugs to get some answers for the test, I believe, and so we were like kind of alluded to him using bugs, but it was never really shown, right? But now like Zaku's like clearly calling it out that like this dude is like a living human bug hive, or at least that's what it appears to him at this point. And then right in that moment, suddenly like millions of beetles are come creeping up behind Zaku, and Zaku realizes it, and he's like shocked by the sight of these like millions of bugs. Shino explains that his bugs are a type of parasitic beetle that attack their prey in a swarm and that eat their chakra, and that his horde could suck Zaku dry in less than a minute. He then offers for Zaku to forfeit again because clearly Zaku's not going to be able to fight two enemies at once, one being Shino himself and the other being this horde of chakra-sucking beetles, and that it's always wise to have an ace up the hole. Zaku flashes back to when he met Orochimaru, and this is pretty neat because we get to see some of Zaku's backstory, and we get to kind of see how Orochimaru acts, and like it's a neat one. Basically, he was a thief on the streets as a young child, and he like stole some bread, and he's getting pursued by the people who he stole from. He winds up getting cornered in a dead end and beaten up by his pursuers, and they wind up leaving him a piece of bread out of just like pity. He eats it, crying alone in shame in like this dead end alley in the city. When he finishes the bread, he begins to walk away when he hears Orochimaru call out, "You have potential, boy." And it's like from the shadows off behind him, and like it gets Zaku's attention, and he turns in the direction of where the voice had come from. But ultimately he sees nothing, and when he goes to continue along his path, he turns around and Orochimaru's standing there in front of him, which is neat. Like he's a ventriloquist actor. Maybe he's just super fast, but either way, he was able to like Jedi mind trick this kid into like being right in front of him, which was dope. Orochimaru explains that he saw something in Zaku, a look in his eye. He then tells him, "If you come with me, I'll make you strong, boy." He then turns and walks away, and as he's walking away, calls out, "Follow me." Zaku thinks on it as Orochimaru's walking away, and he decides to chase after Orochimaru in hopes of becoming strong. Back in the battle arena between Zaku and Shino, Zaku thinks back to another instance where Orochimaru had told him, "Be my weapon, do my bidding, Zaku, and you'll become strong." He flashes back to him doing battle with a hidden sound village ninja. They charge each other and clash, and Zaku sends his adversary flying, and it leaves a huge crater in the ground. He looks to the moon and sees Orochimaru telling him, "Do not disappoint me." He then flashes back to getting his arms broken by Sasuke and thinks, "Never again." He then yells to Shino, "That does it, now you've made me mad." He then yells and fights through the pain and points his broken but too broken of arm to not work. He flexes and busts it out of his little sling and points one hand at the horde and one hand at Shino. He then laughs and mocks, "Like you said, always have an ace in the hole, right?" Dosu laughs internally, thinking it was all a ploy to make him think he only had one good arm. I don't know if that was necessarily the case. I don't know if he actually only had one good arm and he just, through force of will, made it so that he could use his other arm, or if he was kind of playing possum the whole time. I don't really know. Back at the Orochimaru and Kakashi standoff, Orochimaru reveals that he's the force behind the Sound Village. He literally created it. He also reveals that to get what he wants, he's willing to use as many people as he needs to, like chess pieces, getting pawns to do his bidding. Right? Real ugly, narcissistic type of shit. And at this point, when he's referring to using people as pawns, it flashes to Zaku yelling as he's going to blow Shino away. Kakashi asks if Sasuke is one of these pawns, and Orochimaru reveals that Sasuke is a much more valuable piece than a pawn. He then goes on to say that in the game of chess, some pieces must be sacrificed. And at this point, it shows Zaku's jutsu malfunctioning, and it puts his arms in excruciating pain, and you can see chakra erupting out of his arms in every direction. Shino reveals that he had his bugs clog up Zaku's wind holes, and that one ace up the sleeve is good, but that two is better. So, it's great. Shino said it's good to have an ace up the sleeve. Zaku called back to that, and then Shino won up to it. So it was clever writing in the show. At this point, it takes us back to the standoff between Orochimaru and Kakashi, where Orochimaru steps towards Kakashi, and Kakashi at that point demands for him not to come any closer, and he busts out his Chidori, which is his ball of lightning chakra that he holds in his hand that he took out Haku with. He then tells Orochimaru that he doesn't care if he's one of the legendary Sannin, the three shinobi of legend. If he takes one more step towards Sasuke, one of them will die there. And so this is a really badass moment. Again, Orochimaru is one of these legendary three Sannin. We don't really know much about the Sannin at this point, but we know that they're literally legendary ninja. And so Kakashi basically just stood his ground against a legendary ninja, and to save his student, to save Sasuke. And so that's super badass. Go Kakashi. The dude is a real one. Remember how badass Orochimaru was during the Forest to Death? The way just the glare from him shook everybody, gave them the fear paralysis, and Kakashi just stared that dude right in the eyes and was like, "One of us gonna die here if you keep fucking with me, if you keep coming to try and get Sasuke." And so dude's got balls of steel is the only way to really put it. This of course makes Orochimaru just laugh. He gives a big old belly laugh. And Orochimaru then tells Kakashi that all his noble efforts are in vain, and that his seal won't hold, and that it can't keep Sasuke from what he really desires. Sasuke is an avenger. His heart beckons for only one thing, and he'll have it doesn't matter how many obstacles they put in his way, he's going to go and get that. Kakashi demands that Orochimaru will not be able to take advantage of that in Sasuke. And so this is neat that Orochimaru from the outside can already pin Sasuke as an Avenger, and Kakashi knows that Sasuke is an Avenger and is trying his best to keep that from being manipulated and sending Sasuke down the wrong path. Orochimaru walks off, but as he does, he tells Kakashi at some point Sasuke will come to him in search of power. And so it looks like Kakashi did it at this point, right? Like the legendary Sannin, like turned tail. But it is a little unsettling that he's saying that of Sasuke's own volition, he's going to come and seek out Orochimaru so that he can acquire what he's looking for, which is ultimately the strength to be an appropriate Avenger. He then suddenly stops walking and admits that this plan would all fall apart if Kakashi were to kill him right then and there, and dares Kakashi to take his shot while his back is turned. Kakashi hesitates for a second, and Orochimaru disappears into the shadows. And so, man, Orochimaru is like a scary dude. Like, literally had his back to Kakashi and was like, hit me if you think you can, bro. Like, you can stop my plan right now if you can kill me. And Kakashi decided not to go in for the kill, right? Like, let's just save Sasuke right now, get Orochimaru out of here, and we'll regroup. And so, we all have mad respect for Kakashi at this point, right? He's the one who took out Haku and them, and is like a really, really talented ninja. And he, at the end of the day, when he had the opportunity, was like, I'd rather not fight Orochimaru. So let's just keep in mind like where the hierarchy is right now for everybody. He then thinks to himself, one of us will die here? I must have been out of my mind. Which might be true. Back in the battle arena, the proctor of the third exam, Hayate Gecko, the one with the cough, looks over Zaku's injuries, which are significant. His arms are all jacked up from the beetles clogging up his air holes, forcing the jutsu to rip holes in his arms. And he determines that Zaku has had it and declares Shino as the winner. And it like blew holes in his arms, my dude. Like, it like literally, imagine he's trying to shoot a jet stream of air out of his hand hole, and all of a sudden it's clogged, which has made his forearms act like balloons, and pipe forearms for a second until it popped. And that's what he's dealing with right now. So not only are his arms broken, but now he's had his air holes blow apart his arms. So Zaku's in like a really bad way after the tuning exams. He did not have a good day at the office when it went to the tuning exams, to say the least. Rock Lee doesn't understand what happened and asks Neji to take a closer look, who busts out his Byakugan and locks it in on Shino. And remember, the Byakugan is a Dao Jutsu, a visual jutsu, and it is a Kekkei Genkai of the Hyuga clan. I don't know if they've gone and told us all that specifically yet, but if he's busting it out, I want you guys to understand what's happening there. It's basically like the Hyuga version of the Sharingan. And he's able to like see jutsu, he's able to see chakra flow and like all kinds of neat stuff with it, and he locks it in on Shino. And at this point, he sees that the bugs actually live inside of Shino, right? Zaku had it pegged. He's literally like a big living human beetle hive. This like blows Neji's mind. Neji thought that Shino had been using some form of a summoning jutsu, like how Kakashi got his ninja hounds in on the fight with Zabuza. He thought that he was just summoning bugs, but no, this dude's like literally got bugs living inside of him, and like has like a big huge horde of bugs living inside of him. And basically they share chakra is how it's like a mutually beneficial arrangement for them both. Lee, Neji, and Guy Sensei discuss a legend of a bug taming clan in the Leaf who allows bugs to live inside of them and eat off their chakra in exchange for obedience and help in battles. And this is clearly an example of such a bug master, and it's Shino Aburame. So I think it's, at this point you can conclude that the Aburame clan are the legendary Bugmaster clan from within the Leaf Village. Dosu and Keen talk amongst themselves as the medical crew gets Zaku out of there. Keen doesn't understand what happened, so Dosu explains that Shino used his bugs to clog the holes earlier in the fight, and that the primary exit for the air was blocked, and it all builds up inside of his arms, and eventually something had to give. It basically turned his arms into balloons and popped them, as I said earlier. Dosu admits they had little in common, him and Zaku that is, but he fully intends to even the score just for Zaku, and he laughs maniacally, right? Like he's got a whole new motivating factor. Like, I didn't have a whole lot in common with Zaku, but he's my comrade, and now I gotta get him back for Zaku. Naruto yells excitedly that Shino's good. You wouldn't expect that with him being all quiet, and that he can't wait to get his shot at him. Sakura thought Shino was weird before, but now it's even worse, right? He's like a bug hive. Shino heads back into the stands where Hinata and Kiba, his teammates on Team 8, try and congratulate him, but Shino just kind of calmly says for them to go do the same. Kiba angrily thinks to himself, who died and made him team leader? So at this point you can see Kiba always kind of wants to be the leader, but he's feeling threatened by his teammate already. It's not like a super heavily spoken thing, but you can see it there. Hayate Gecko then announces that they're going to get going with the third match, when suddenly Kakashi appears behind Naruto and Sakura. Sakura immediately confronts Kakashi about Sasuke, asking how he is, and Kakashi promises he's fine and he's sleeping currently, but leaves out the fact that he's being kept under guard of the Anbu Black Ops. So I guess they're confident in Orochimaru having actually left. We know that through previous dialogue that an entire unit from the Anbu Black Ops has been previously unsuccessful in capturing or killing Orochimaru. So I feel like if Orochimaru really wanted to go back and get Sasuke, he'd probably be able to at this point, just based on what's already been divulged about his capacity versus the Anbu Black Ops. Back in the battle arena, though, the next fight is determined to be Kankuro, the older brother of Gaara of the Sand Siblings, and Tsurugi, the third member of Orochimaru's spy unit, with Kabuto and Yoroi pretending to be Leaf Shinobi. Baki, Kankuro's sensei, thinks Kankuro may underestimate his opponents one too many times. So I guess evidently Kankuro has a thing about being too cocky and underestimating his opponents, but can you really blame the guy whenever he's teammates with Gaara, and Gaara's out here turning people into blood rain, literally. So, it comes to the territory, I guess. But as Kankuro goes into fight, Baki's generally concerned about Kankuro maybe underestimating his opponent and not going his way. Gaara thinks of Kankuro as an idiot. It's always real short bits of dialogue with him, but you can tell how he feels. They square off, and Tsurugi warns that he ain't like Yoroi. He won't get careless even around kids. Tsurugi advises that Kankuro give up before he gets hit with his jutsu, and that if he does, he'll make it short and painless for him. Kankuro says that he was about to say the same thing, but he can't promise that it'll be painless. And as he's saying this, he takes the thing off his back and slams it on the ground, has it here, real cool guy style with it. Hayate says, "Let the third match begin," and the episode ends. And that's a fantastic episode. I really enjoyed it. It was fun getting to learn more about Shino and what they have going on. But I have some notes here written down, so let's just go over them in the way that I wrote them so I don't step over my own toes. So Kakashi's a real one for being down to risk his life to protect Sasuke, right? Big ups to Kakashi. Literally busted out his Chidori and was like, "Alright, Orochimaru of the legendary Sannin, if you take another step towards my student, one of us is going to die here today." And that was effectively enough to get Orochimaru to turn tail. And so, really good on Kakashi, man. Like, dude is literally a ride or die for the squadlings, and if that didn't prove it, nothing will. So, Kakashi is like, my fucking dude. The dude literally just stood up to one of the three legendary Sannin and, like, stared death paralysis fear in the face and, like, flexed on him. And so, the only thing is, Orochimaru did give Kakashi an opportunity to attack before it was all said and done, and he didn't take it. But realistically, that was probably a trap. You know what I'm saying? Orochimaru isn't going to let himself get killed. He was ready to counter, and it would have been a bad deal if Kakashi took it. And so I think Kakashi played it correctly, to be entirely honest. While Orochimaru already knows that Sasuke is an Avenger, dude knew exactly what he was looking at. And cool on Kakashi for recognizing that is true and doing what he can to prevent that from being leveraged in a negative way, and it, like, sending Sasuke down the wrong path. Kakashi wasn't born with the Sharingan. He didn't have it when him and Orochimaru had last interacted, and so he's come into the Sharingan somehow as of recent. Orochimaru wants the Sharingan, the power of the Uchiha, and that's why he's after Sasuke, which, I mean, Orochimaru is already like one of the three legendary Sannin, big scary character. Imagine him with the Sharingan, it would just be out of this world. Shout out Zaku for being tough as nails, sad backstory. Orochimaru is a big nasty predator, poaching poor kids to be his pawns. He's taken a couple L's this arc. Doesn't appear as though he's dead. Maybe he'll be back. I can't believe his arms popped like balloons. That's crazy, bro. Like, Shino's a beast for being able to do that. Shout out Shino for being a scary good shinobi, right? Like, in a weird way that, like, I don't think anybody could have necessarily been expecting with the bugs and the way that he's wielding them. Them chakra-eating beetle armies are a tough deal whenever you're battling against a shinobi simultaneously, right? Like, it's a coordinated attack between the hive and the occupants of the hive. And so it's a tough fight whenever you're dealing with them and they bust out their little hive armies. While he's so inconspicuous, even his village mates were unaware that he's basically a big living beetle hive. Neji had to lock in his Byakugan on him before they even realized what was really going on. It was cool that Neji was able to see that with his Byakugan. That's a really neat skill. That, the Byakugan is like a really cool tool. And I guess that the Aburame clan is in fact the Bugmaster clan of legend and belief. And so the last fight is going to be Kankuro versus Tsurugi, and I can't wait to see how that goes. I don't think that we've really gotten to see much out of Kankuro or Tsurugi, and so it's going to be an interesting fight. But with that, I feel as though I can pretty effectively put a bow on this episode. If I missed anything, if I misspoke on something, let me know in the comments. I want to make sure I have the record set straight. Again, the point of this is to make sure that anybody who's watching Naruto has someone to watch it along with and can help keep them oriented. I know whenever I watched Naruto for the first time, it was pretty overwhelming to try and keep up with everything and understand it the way it needed to be understood. And only after a lot of watching was I able to really start getting it. And so I hope that someone out there really appreciates me putting in all this effort to keep everybody coordinated and on the same page. But at any rate, I really love everybody out there unconditionally. Thank you all so much for tuning in. This is Joshua, your Konoha companion. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.
Monkey mouth, monkey mouth, monkey mouth, monkey mouth.